This is the OCR GCSE 9 to 1 Maths paper 5 from the November 2022 series, and this paper is a non-calculator paper. We have to find all the possible integer values that satisfy the inequality -4 is less than or equal to x subtract 3, which is less than 1. If we add 3 to each side, then what we have is -4 plus 3, which is -1. This is less than or equal to x, which is less than 1 plus 3, which is 4. We need all the values of x in between -1 and 4, including the -1, not including the 4. So we have -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3 as our integers. Question number 1. Jamie was paid £14 per hour. Jamie receives a pay increase of 20%. We have to work out how much Jamie is now paid per hour. Well, the first thing we need to do is work out 20% of the £14. So, 20% of £14, that's equal to £2.80, and therefore we would have £14 plus the increase in his pay, £2.80, and if we work this out, we get £16.80. So therefore, we have £16.80. We have to find all the possible integer values that satisfy the inequality -4 is less than or equal to x subtract 3, which is less than 1. If we add 3 to each side, then what we have is -4 plus 3, which is -1. This is less than or equal to x, which is less than 1 plus 3, which is 4. We need all the values of x in between -1 and 4, including the -1, not including the 4. So we have -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3 as our integers. Question number 3. Asmi has a fair spinner numbered 2, 5, and 8. Asmi spins the spinner twice and adds 2 scoreds to get a total. For part A, we have to complete the table to show all of the possible totals. 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 plus 5 is 7, 2 plus 8, that's 10, 5 plus 2 is 7, 5 plus 5 is 10, 5 plus 8 is 13, 8 plus 2 is 10, 8 plus 5 is 13, 8 plus 8 is 16. For part B, we have to find the probability that the total is a square number. What are the square numbers? Well, 4 is a square number, and 16 is a square number. We have 2 square numbers. So therefore, for the probability, out of the 9 in total, we have 2 square numbers. So we have 2/9. Question number 4. Layla and Jamal open a box of sweets. Layla and Jamal share all of the sweets in the ratio 2 to 3. For part A, we have to write down the fraction of the sweets Layla receives. Well, we've got 2 plus 3, which is 5. So we have 5 parts altogether, And of those 5, Layla receives 2 of those 5 parts. So we have 2/5. For part B, Layla eats some of her sweets. She is then left with 18% of the sweets that were in the box. We have to work out the percentage of her sweets that Layla has eaten. Well, if we think about how much she is left with, she's left with 18% of the sweets, so we have 18 over 100 of the amount of sweets she receives, 2/5. So if we work this out, this is the same as 18 over 100 multiplied by 5 over 2, which is 45 over 100, which is how much she is left with as a percentage. So the amount she's eaten will be 55%. So we have 55%. Question number 5. Ashley goes on a journey. She travels by taxi for 1/8 of the journey. She travels by train for 4/5 of the journey. She walks for the remaining 900 meters of the journey. We have to find the length of this journey in kilometers. You must show your working. First of all, if we let the length of the journey be x, let's see first of all how much of her journey she has already taken with the taxi and the train. We've got 1, whole 1, subtract 1/8, subtract 4/5, which is 37 over 40. What that means is, for the remaining part, that would correspond to the 3 over 40. So she walks for 3 over 40 of her journey. So 3 over 40 of x, that's equal to 0.9 kilometers, which is the same as 900 meters. And if we attempt to solve for x, 3x is 36, which means x is 12. So we have 12 kilometers. Question number 6. This graph shows information about the population of a village. We've got the year and then we've got the population in thousands. For part A, the population of the village in 2021 was 4,740. We have to plot this point on the graph. So in the year 2021, we've got 4,740. That's over here. We've plotted the point. For part B, we have to work out the increase in the population of the village between 2016 and 2018. Well, in 2016, we've got the amount 4,160, and in 2018, we've got the amount 4,480. So if we work out the difference between these, we've got 4,480 subtract 4,160, and that's equal to 320. So we've got 320. For part C, Rowan says that there was a huge increase in the population of the village between 2015 and 2020. So from 2015 to 2020, he's saying that there's a huge increase. We have to describe how Rowan may have been misled by the graph. Well, the graph starts at 4.0 instead of 0, so we don't actually know the difference. So the vertical axis does not start at 0. For part D, Blake says that the population of the village will be greater than 4,800 in 2022. Write down an assumption that Blake has made. So the assumption Blake has made is the population will continue the same as previous years. So if we consider the same rate, we have something above 4.8 thousand. Question number 7. The diagram shows a straight line crossing a pair of parallel lines. We have to find the value of y. You must show your working. First of all, we've got angles on a straight line which sum to 180. So we've got 3x subtract 23 plus x plus 35 that's equal to 180. So we've got 4x, and then here we've got negative 23 plus 35, which is 13. So we've got 4x plus 13, which is equal to 180. If we subtract 13 from both sides, well, we've got 12. If we do 180 subtract 12, we get 168. So we have 4x equals 168. And if we solve for x equals 42. So if x is equal to 42, we can use this to find out what this angle here is. We've got 3 times by 42, and then subtracting 23 from that, we get 103. So this angle here is 103, which means this angle y is also 103. So that means y equals 3 times by 42 subtract 23, which is equal to 103. Question number 8. The diagram shows a cylinder with radius 15 centimeters and height 20 centimeters, as we see here. For part A on the grid below, we have to draw a plan view of the cylinder. Use a scale 1 centimeter represents 5 centimeters. Well, if we've got this radius of 15 centimeters, on the grid, using the scale, 15 divided by 5 is 3. So if I draw a circle, because I'm looking at it from the top, with the radius 3, here is the plan view. Now we have to draw the front elevation of the cylinder. Well, if here is our cylinder and we're looking at it from the front, we see a rectangle. And the rectangle will have a length of double the 15, which is 30. And the height will remain as it is, as 20. Now if I use my scale, 20 divided by 5 is 4, and then the 30, which is the length of the rectangle, 30 divided by 5 is 6. So when I come to draw the front elevation, I've got a rectangle with dimensions 6 by 4. Question number 9. A student says that they have placed the following values in order, starting with the smallest. We've got a tenth squared, then the square root of 0.25, and then 4 to the negative 1. Has the student done this correctly? Show how you decide. Well, let's convert everything to a decimal. If I work out 1/10 all squared, I've got 1/10 all squared, which is equal to 1/100, which is the same as 0.01. Then I've got the square root of 0.25. So the square root of 0.25, that's the same as 0.5. And then I've got 4 to the negative 1, which is the same as 1/4, which is the same as 0.25. The order should be 1/10 squared, 4 to the negative 1, and then the square root of 0.25, so they are not correct. Question number 10. A parallelogram and the trapezium have the same area. We've got the base length of the parallelogram being 8 centimeters and the height being 5 centimeters. And for the trapezium, we've got the longer side being y centimeters, the shorter side being x centimeters, and the height being 4 centimeters. The ratio of x to y is 3 to 5. we have to work out the value of x and the value of y. You must show you're working. First of all, the area of the parallelogram, that's equal to 8 times by 5, which is 40. So we have the area of the parallelogram being 40 centimeters squared. If we work out the area of the trapezium, we have half times by the height, 4 centimeters, times by the sum of the two parallel sides, x plus y. So that simplifies to 2 multiplied by x plus y. So we have 2 multiplied by x plus y equals 40 because the parallelogram and the trapezium have the same area. Now, the problem is we don't know what x is or y is, but we can find that out using the ratio. We can rewrite the ratio as x over y equals 3 over 5, which will be simplified to x equals 3y over 5. So if I've replaced the x with 3y over 5, I've got 2 multiplied by 3y over 5 plus the y equals 40. Dividing through by 2, we end up with 3y over 5 plus y equals 20. So 8y over 5 equals 20, which means y equals 25 over 2. And if I substitute this into x equals 3y over 5, that means x is equal to 3/5 multiplied by 25 over 2, which is 15 over 2. So in other words, x is 7.5, y is 12.5. Question number 11, we have to write 0.27 recurring as a fraction in its simplest form. If we begin by letting x equals 0.27, 27, 27, etc., multiplying this by 100 because we've got 2 digits recurring, we are left with 100x equals 27.27, 27, 27, etc. Now if we subtract these, 100x subtract x is 99x. So I've got 99x equals, and then we've got 27.27, etc. Subtract 0.27, 27, etc. Now if we think about which units cancel, these cancel when we subtract, which means 99x is just equal to 27. And if I solve for x is equal to 27 divided by 99, which is equal to 3 over 11. So we've got 3 over 11. Question number 12. The time t seconds taken by each of 60 students to complete a puzzle is recorded. The table shows information about these times. So we've got the time in seconds and then the frequency. Part A. 2 students are picked at random. Reese works out the probability that they both took longer than 50 seconds to complete the puzzle. Reese's working is shown below. So the number of students who took longer than 50 seconds is 30 plus 10, which is 40. And then the probability that one student took longer than 57 seconds is 40 over 60, which simplifies to 2/3. And then the probability that they both took longer than 50 seconds is 2/3 times 2/3, which is 4/9. We have to explain the error in their method and write the correct calculation that Reese needs to do. You do not need to work out the answer to the calculation. Well, the error is the events are dependent. So once we pick one student, that student's already been picked, so there's 59 students left. So we have the 2 events being dependent, so that's what the error is, and the correct calculation in that case will be 40 over 60 multiplied by 39 over 59. Part B, 2 students are picked at random from those who took 50 seconds or less. We have to find the probability that one of them took 30 seconds or less and the other took more than 40 seconds. You must show you're working. Well, how many students took 50 seconds or less? That's 8 plus 0 plus 12, which is 20. So we've got 20 students who took 50 seconds or less. Now, those who took 30 seconds or less, that's 8. So here we have those who took 30 seconds or less, that's 8 students, and those who took more than 40 seconds, we've got 12 students who took more than 40 seconds, but remember, we're looking at overall 50 seconds or less, so that's 12. So here we have 12 students. Now let's think about this in terms of a tree diagram. What we would have is those who took more than 30 seconds, and then here, well, it's 30 seconds or less, and then the other one is 40 seconds or more. So I could choose those who took 30 seconds or less, and then after that what's going to happen is this is going to be repeated, isn't it? So we're going to have another branch like that, and then another one like this. So we could either have 30 seconds or less, or 40 seconds or more, or we could have 40 seconds or more, then 30 seconds or less. So that's why we will have 2 multiplied by, well, here we would have 8 over the 20 multiplied by the 12, and then if we take a student, we're not going to count him again, so we have 12 over 19. And if we work this out, let's see what we can simplify. So 8 over 20 can be simplified to 4 over 10, which simplifies to 2/5. So we have 2 multiplied by 2/5 times by 12 over 19, which simplifies to 48 over 95. Question number 13. Points A, B, C and D lie on the circumference of a circle. The line AC intersects the line BD at the point E. We have to prove that the triangle AED is similar to the triangle BEC. First of all, the angle AED, that's this angle here, that is the same as the angle BCE, that's this angle here. So we've got the angle AED equaling the angle BEC because we've got vertically opposite angles. Now, if we think about what else is the same, well, we've got the angle DAE, that's this angle here, and that will equal the angle EBC, that's this angle here. So the reason they are the same is because angles in the same segment are equal. And also this angle here will also equal this angle here. So we've got angles in the same segment which are equal. So what we can therefore conclude then is we have the angle rule, which means that the triangles are similar. Question number 14. The number of bees P in a colony is given by the formula P equals AB to the X, where X is the number of months after the start of July. At the start of July, there were 25,000 bees in the colony. After 1 month, there were 23,500 bees in the colony. We have to find the value of A and the value of B. Give the value of B as a decimal. Well, if x is a number of months after the start of July, at the start of July, that would mean x equals 0. So when x equals 0, we know that p equals 25,000. So we have 25,000 equals a times b to the power of 0, which means a equals 25,000 because b to the power of 0 is just 1. Now, after 1 month, so that means x equals 1, we know that the number of b's is 23,500. So we have 23,500 equals a, which I know is 25,000 times by b to the power of 1. So if I divide through by 25,000, b is equal to 23,500 divided by 25,000. So what I need to do is figure out how many 500s go into these. So if I do 23,500 divided by 500, well, in every 1,000 there's two 500s. So I've got 23,000 divided by 500. That will be 46. And then I've got another 47. So then I've got 47 over. Then if I do 25,000 divided by 500, I get 50. So we've got 47 over 50. And if I double it, I get 94 over 100, which is the same as 0.94. So I'll get A equals 25,000, B equals 0.94. Question number 15, part A, we have to simplify root 3 times by root 15. So we've got root 3 already, and then I can multiply this by root 15. Now root 15 is the same as root 3 times by root 5. So root 15 is the same as root 3 times by root 5. Now root 3 times root 3, that's just 3, and then I've got this root 5. So I've got 3 times by the square root of 5. For part B, we have to rationalize the denominator and simplify 40 over root 15. So if we work this out, I've got the 40 over root 15, but what I need to do then is multiply the top and bottom by 1. And when I say 1, what I mean is I need to multiply the top and bottom by root 15 over root 15. That is just the same as multiplying by 1. So on the top, we've got 40 root 15. And on the bottom, I've just got 15. Now, I can simplify this even further. 40 over 15 is the same as 8 over 3. So I've got 8 times by root 15 over 3. We can't simplify this any further. So we have 8 root 15 over 3. For part C, we have to work out 27 to the power of 4 over 3. What this is the same as is 27 to the power of 1/3 to the power of 4. So 27 to the power of 1/3, that's just the same as 3. So I've got 3 to the power of 4, which is equal to 81. Question number 16. The graph shows the distance travelled by a particle over the first 20 seconds of its motion. For part A, we have to show that the average speed of the particle over the first 20 seconds of its motion is 1.8 meters per second. Well, we travel a total of 36 meters in 20 seconds. So for the speed, we've got the distance, 36 meters, divided by the time, 20 seconds. And if we work this out, we get 1.8 meters per second. Next, we have to estimate the speed of the particle at 10 seconds. You must show working to support your estimate. So the first thing we need to do is draw a tangent to the curve at 10 seconds, as we see here. And in terms of how much we change in the x direction, we change, well, here's 15, 16, 17, 18 in the x direction. And in the y direction, we are going from 17 to 40. So 17 to 40, that's 23 meters, and here we said we have 18 seconds. So for the speed, we would have 23 meters over 18 seconds, and if we work this out as an approximate, well, we have one whole, and what's left over is 5 over 18 meters per second. So we've got 1 and 5/18 meters per second approximately. Question number 17. The diagram shows triangle ABC. We have to find the area of the triangle in the form a times the square root of b, where a and b are integers. Well, the area, that's equal to 1/2 times by 8 times by 7 times by the sine of 45. So I've got 1/2 times by 8, which is 4, multiplying that by 7 I get 28. So I've got 28 multiplied by the sine of 45. The sine of 45 is 1 over root 2, which is root 2 over 2. So I've got 28 times by root 2 over 2. So it turns out we get 14 times by root 2. So we have 14 times by root 2. Question number 18. Part A, by factorising, we have to find the roots of y equals x squared plus 18x plus 77. Well, if I factorise, I would have x plus 11 multiplied by x plus 7. And if I find the roots, that means I need to set this equation equal to 0. So because we are finding the roots, we need to set the equation to 0. Either x plus 11 equals 0, in which case x is negative 11, And if x plus 7 is 0, that means x is negative 7. So we have negative 11 and negative 7. Next, we have to write x squared plus 18x plus 77 in the form x plus al squared subtract b. This form suggests to us we need to complete the square. So if I complete the square, the first thing I will do is put in a bracket x plus, now half the coefficient of x, that's 9. So I've had x plus 9 all squared, and then I need to subtract the square of 9, and then I've still got this plus 77. So I've got x plus 9 squared, subtract 81 plus 77. And if I simplify this even further, I would have x plus 9 all squared, negative 81 plus 77, that's equal to negative 4. So I've got y equals x plus 9 all squared, subtract 4. We now have to find the coordinates of the turning point. Well, the x coordinate of the turning point is negative 9 and the y coordinate is negative 4. Question number 19. Part A, we have to sketch the graph of y equals 5 to the x, indicating any values where the graph crosses the axis. Here is the graph. It crosses the y-axis at the point 0, 1. When x is 0, y equals 1. For part B, we have to sketch the graph of y equals tan x for values of x being in between 0 and 360, indicating where the graph crosses the axis. So here we've got the graph of y equals tan x in between 0 and 360, and it crosses the graph at 0, 180 and 360. Question number 20. Kai has a box in the shape of a cuboid. The internal dimensions of the box are 10 cm by 4 cm by 6 cm. Kai has a pencil of length 13 cm. We have to show that the pencil does not completely fit inside the box. Well, clearly putting the pencil this way won't fit because it's bigger than the 10 cm. Putting it this way won't fit. 13 is bigger than the 4, and putting it this way won't fit either. One way in which we could put this pencil down is diagonally like this. And what we have to see if the pencil fits diagonally. Well, how could I do that? I could do that using 3D Pythagoras. So, if we use 3D Pythagoras, we have this length, I'm going to call it x. Well, I would have x squared equals 10 squared plus 4 squared plus 6 squared. 100 plus 16 plus 36 is 152. Now, if I find out what x is, that's going to equal 152 square rooted. Now let's compare this to the size of the pencil. Well, I know that 13 squared equals 169, which means that because this amount is bigger than this amount here, that means the 152 square rooted is less than 13, which means the pencil does not fit. Question number 21. The graph of y equals 1 over x minus 2 is drawn on the grid for minus 2 to 6, as we see here. For part A, there are no values of x for which 1 over x minus 2 equals k. We have to find the value of k. Well, clearly, that value for which there are no values of x will be along the x-axis. In other words, that's when k equals 0. We have to use a graph now to find the approximate solutions to the equation 1 over x minus 2 equals 3x minus 1 to one decimal place to show you're working on the graph. So what I need to do is draw the graph of 3x minus 1. So let's just get rid of this. So if I draw the graph of 3x minus 1, well, it crosses the y-axis at minus 1, and I've got a gradient of 3. So for every one I go across, I go 2 up. So 1 across, 3 up. So this has a gradient of